Sabaydi Pimai. Happy New Year, everyone. My life began in Pathet, Laos, towards the end of the secret war. As the oldest daughter, I was supposed to stay in the village, care for my cousins, my family, and marry a good man to help care for my elders. Every 8 minutes, 24 hours a day, for 9 years, we had cluster bombs, plane loads drop on my country. My dad and my uncles were child soldiers in the military. They came to rescue us in the middle of the night. My mom put me on her back, said, "Shh, Suhait, Supak, do not speak, do not cry," as she carried me on her back and ran barefoot through the jungles. When we arrived on the boat, I ran, crouched down as I watched the fires from the guns shooting at us. When we arrived in Thailand, first thing we received was a blue blanket that was to help keep the family warm. We lived in makeshift huts, no windows, no doors, just the dirt floor. My family, like every other family, we slept on dirt with the animals. I was sick a lot. I had malaria and almost died. The planes, the only planes we ever saw, were the ones flying overhead. All of a sudden, we were told, "You're getting on a plane. You're going to meet your sponsor." What? What's a sponsor? What do they even look like? When we got to Los Angeles, California, we were notified. Our sponsor was sent off on a mission to Africa. We missed our connecting flight. We had our refugee outfit on, the best that we could have, with our little badge that identified us as refugee. Our entire life was in a white bag that we carried around the airport that was identified us from the United Nations High Commissioners of Refugee. That was our life. We didn't know where to go. Through the kindness of a nice Filipina lady who saw us struggling, she helped us find where we needed to go. When we arrived in Stockton, California, my uncle met us with a smile, and we moved in with him in his one-bedroom apartment, all 20 of us sleeping in a line. But perspective, living from a refugee camp, we now had a door, a window. The sounds of the cars zooming by was, guess what? Soothing compared to the sounds of the planes. In 1980, Stockton was mainly farmland. And so we as young children would get up really early before the sun came up and went and helped our family pick crops, strawberries, watermelons, corn, whatever was in season. We would pick as fast as we could, put it in the buckets, and go weigh them because we were paid by the buckets. After that, when the sun came up, we were off to school, study as hard as we could, then released back home. When we got home, we would help our parents work again, go to sleep, repeat all over again. My parents worked 2 to 3 jobs, and often my mom, late at night, would come home with assembly boards. And all 20 of us, with our tiny little fingers, because we were quick, knew how to assemble so fast to make ends meet. Growing up in Section 8 housing, I was surrounded by Latinos, Africans, Asians from all over the world. For me, I was so happy and carefree during this time, but probably not for my family. This was the first time ever I was in community where people were not judging me by the color of my skin, the accent that I held, or the class that I ranked in. We were in community, all of us as human beings. We may not speak the same language, but we were all helping each other survive. In these communities that I lived in, poverty was evident. The need to survive was constant. And it was very clear. We had young kids with loaded guns, those who were victims of a crime, and those who perpetrated. These were my friends. These were my family. These were my neighbors. This was the community that taught me about fighting for each other. In community, I learned a lot. At age 8, I just got to America, barely spoke the language, but I was told I had to go be my parents' interpreter. I had to fill out their forms. I had to answer their phone calls. I had to wait in line at Social Security, the doctor's office, at immigration. I saw how they treated my family. I saw how they treated my community. We were ignored, rushed off, and often yelled at for not understanding. These moments left a permanent scar deep. In these communities, I realized that if we were ever at a park, just hanging out, eating like we do, sharing food, if the sound of a gun went off or a gang fight would begin, my job was to run. I could not be a witness. I could not get into a gang fight. I could not be involved. I knew if for any of those things, law enforcement would show up for the murders. And for me, if I was in the wrong place, the wrong time, got locked up in a gang fight, guess what? I would not be standing here. My parents worked a lot, so I was blessed because I had people who cared for me, specifically my grandparents. They taught me early on that girls from Laos, especially from where we grew up, were not allowed to have an education. So I had to study. But my metao, my grandma, she said to me, Pon, if you're going to study, ao jai sai, put your heart into it. Do not do anything halfway, ao jai sai. That stuck with me. To me, growing up, what was an education? I was told from a very young age to marry a good man, to find a good man, to learn to cook, to clean, so I could keep a good man. I almost flunked out of high school because why study? Why go to college? What was the utility of an education if my husband was supposed to care for me? I was blessed because I had a teacher that cared for me. She saw me. She believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Miss Bates. She gave me my first book, Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. She knew I loved to read, even though English was my second language and I was slow. I loved to read because it took you to faraway places. It made you rethink how you thought you were thinking. And after I finished that book, she kept giving me books over and over again. And one day, she sat me down and she said to me, "Pawn, what is going on? I see you reading. I see you love reading, but you're flunking. You keep telling me you want to help your family get out of poverty, but you're limiting yourself. You're stopping yourself. You are your own worst enemy right now." Those words hurt. Those words stung. But guess what? Those were the words that made me cry and reflect. What was I doing with my life? The words of my grandmother, the words of Miss Bates, it made me challenge myself. It made me rethink. It's changed my life's perspective. I realized if I focused on me, I would lift my family. I would lift my community. It was a game changer. I graduated, went to junior college, and then got a dual degree from Santa Clara University. When I was my senior year, I had to work. And I got a wonderful opportunity to work at Rambus, a semiconductor company in Mountain View, California. The chief financial officer, when he met me, was so kind. He had a daughter that was the same age as me. And he said to me, first thing he said to me, "What do you want to do with your life?" I blurted out with so much enthusiasm, "I want to be a lawyer." And then I sat there for a moment. I never knew a lawyer. Haven't met one, worked with one. But I knew in the communities that I grew up, lawyers were the last resort in helping our community. And I wanted to help people. At Rambus, it was the first time ever that I met female engineers. I met top executives that looked like me, thought like me, ate like me. And you know what? More importantly, they believed in me. When I could not afford a really expensive calculator, the TI-85, they all pitched their money in together to surprise me with it. And when they did that, I worked so hard because I wanted them to be proud. I got an A. And then when I got accepted to law school, they shut down the entire company to throw me a party. They put all their money together and gave me the most generous gift card so that I would not feel alone, so that I could buy furniture without worrying about money. These people will forever have a place in my heart. My elders have always taught me, Pawn, you must always give back. When we got to America, we didn't have much, but my aunts, my uncles, my elders would often open their homes, share their food, and assist everyone else who was new to America navigate the intricacies and the hardship of our systems. Through them, I realized how important it was to give back. My elders taught me how to community organize before we had a term for community organizing. It was them and countless others that pushed me to go to law school. I applied at Northwestern School of Law of Lewis and Clark College because then it was the #1 law school in public interest law. I wanted to give back to ordinary people like myself and my family who struggled. I wanted to focus on survivors of domestic violence, those facing immigration, and those who were stuck with elder law issues. Lewis and Clark gave me that opportunity. I also, at Lewis and Clark, wanted to really be connected to the community. So during that time period, I reached out to Immigrant Refugee Community Organization, IRCO, and Catholic Charities, because I wanted to be immersed in community. And there, I was given the opportunity to work with the most vulnerable in our state and our nation. I worked with survivors of domestic violence, women and children who were survivors of human trafficking. I also dealt with gang violence and immigration. But the best thing that I got to do, and what I loved to do, was to teach every single person walking through those doors their legal rights, navigating these systems. In those experiences, I realized that our system of law and society does not have the best process in dealing with trauma, PTSD. I saw systems that often would take in but spit out without rehabilitating. It was there that I saw that this is not how life had to be for our community. I wanted to be that difference. I decided in 2017, during the travel ban, I witnessed some of the hardest things for our foreign nationals and US citizens. It was the first time in my life, in my legal career, that we were actually witnessing US citizens denied entry into the United States. During that time period, me and my friends realized, we were at the airport filing all these petitions, that I, as a lawyer, could file 1,000 petitions, but I did not have the power to interpret the law so that it can apply fairly and equally to every human being. It was then, and it was there, that I decided I must become a judge. People like me, who grew up in a refugee camp, women like me, who lived on the tougher side of town, were often told we could not be state judges. I should not be here, but I am here. I am living my ancestors' dreams. I am caring for my community and my family, the thing I love to do the most. I am making sure that every person seen, heard, and valued. I am the first Lao judge, ethnic Lao judge in the nation. Khop Jai.